Hi, my name's Duncan from Dorset Woodland Blades. I'm going to do a short series of videos based around what I've learned over the last 2 years making sheaths and other items from a product called Kydex, which is a thermoforming plastic. So Kydex is a thermoforming plastic. Kydex is the generic name we use, a bit like Hoover for vacuum cleaner. It's a brand name. There is also available Kydex, which is another variation, and now a new one on the market, Kydex. It's all a similar product. They do react slightly differently when you're using them, but in basic forms you warm them up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, then they'll mould into any shape you wish and reharden in that shape when they cool down. Kydex comes in sheet form. That's how we generally use it. It's normally sold for knife making purposes by the square foot, i.e. 12 inches by 12 inches or 12 inches by 24 inch, or in UK that would be about 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters, which is approximately this much. I personally prefer to buy it in the double the size, 24 inches long. It's more efficient if you're making more sheaths. You can get more out of a 24-inch piece than you can out of two 12-inch pieces. Kydex is available in pretty much 4 thicknesses, which are in inches because they're American. The thinnest generally is 60 thou, which is approximately 1.5 millimeters. The general purpose one that most people use is 80 thou, which is 2 millimeters. There is a 0.9 or 93 thou, which is 2.4 millimeters, and there's one which I don't generally use very much, which is 0.125 or 125 thou, which is 3 millimeters thick. Not really of much use for moulding knife sheaths because it is far too thick. It's used a lot for making belt loops and straps because it's very strong on its own. I don't have any and I don't use it, but a lot of the holster guys in America do. I've also had some UK stuff which is 1 millimeter, which would be 40 thou roughly, which is very thin and flimsy, but it does have its uses and applications. Combining the colours and these different thicknesses can give you a good looking sheath with a lot of different functions. The other advantage of Kydex is a bit like Meccano, you can take it apart and put it together. It's generally bolted if you use all the proprietary systems, and you can add on and take off bits or change the configuration quite easily. So, sheath system. Have a knife. We have the Kydex, in this case wrap, which goes around it. That's the moulded piece. We have a eyelet or clamp, normally in leather. Obviously it will be stitched together. We can't do this in here, so these are generally eyelets or rivets depending on how you call them. There's a bolting system, and then the hardware to connect it to whatever you're going to carry. In this case it's a tech lock, which is a belt loop cut holder. I've got a couple of basic post and screw bolts to bolt the two together, and that's what you get. So depending on the combinations of these parts, the colours that you use and the thicknesses to use depends on what style of sheath and how it looks. As I say, that was a wraparound sheath. This is a bit different. This is the pancake sheath, 2 pieces and are riveted both sides, a bit like a leather sheath that's been stitched around. This is fixed to a Cordura carrier. Oh, I didn't make this. This is an off the shelf. This is from SA or Wrap Cutlery, whatever you want to call them, or whatever they call themselves these days. And again, because it's got standard bolts and fixings, which is what they use, you can design your stuff to fit onto standard equipment like this, which makes making the sheath a lot more versatile. there are several other bits. This is another rat cutlery carrier plate. Again, it's got standard holes in here, which again you can bolt into because they have standard hole centers. In general, 1.5 inches. This is a Spec Ops Combat Master sheath. It comes with a thermoform plastic tube which you can push a knife into. However, we can take this out and replace it with our own Kydex, such as this, and make our own inserts to make a very nice combination or system, depending on what you want. So it's very easy to play with these. Again, this will bolt onto a tetlock, same as this bit here. It can fit in there, it can fit on most of the other things. It will fit onto this one for a smaller carrier plate. So you're limited by your imagination basically and what is available out there, and there's a large range of stuff. Obviously most of it, because of the nature of the system, is aimed at the military and tactical stuff. However, we've got some garish colours and other things here. We can make it more civilian inclined. It doesn't have to be military. It's just up to you and how you put it together basically. So Kydex, as I say, this is 12 inches of 80 thou 2mm sheet. This is the general thickness that most sheaths will be made of. It's reasonably flexible. Okay, we have here somewhere, this is a piece of 60 thou 1.5mm, a lot more flexible, and this is a piece of 0.93, again a bit more rigid. So we need to look at the stiffness that we want for our sheath and match that to the material and the design that we're doing. Then we can consider how we want to carry it. As I say, most of my style knives, this size, which is a standard sort of 4-inch-ish blade bushcraft knife, I prefer to bolt with a wraparound and have it on a horizontal carry. It clips on and off the belt quick and easy. Some of the bigger knives, such as this one, it's exactly the same. However, it's a broken back sheath because of the style of knife. This requires 93 thou Kydex because it needs the stiffness to be able to hold its shape and grip. Such a large and heavy knife. This is the same knife as this one, but is a lighter weight, and this is a 60 thou sheath, and this is more than adequate for this one. Just say they're the same design knife, however they won't fit each other's sheaths. Okay, each sheath is moulded to its individual knife, and especially with custom handmade stuff, you will never get two of the same mould to fit in if they've been handmade. You can, with production knives, make one off and use the same knife as a pattern, but in general the sheath is moulded directly to the knife. Okay, I'll zoom in a minute and we can look at some of the bits and the smaller bits and pieces in detail. Looking now at the riveting system, as I say, I use Kydex rivets or eyelets. These are available generally in two sizes. Okay, the larger ones are called 1/4 inch rivets, the smaller ones are 3/16 rivets. This refers to the hole size that you drill to fit them into, not the hole that goes through the middle. Okay, so for the 1/4 inch ones we use a 1/4 inch drill. Best drills for this are wood type drills with a lip and spur. They have a brad point bit on it, and the lip here cuts a nice clean hole, you can get a nice accurate drill with the point. It cuts a clean hole, which in general doesn't need to be deburred or cleaned up. There's nothing to stop you from using a normal high-speed metal bit drill. However, I would recommend you use a new one so it's nice and sharp. You'll still have to clean it up a little bit, but it will do an adequate job. I recommend that you use the 1/4 inch size. You can use a 6.5mm, which is slightly bigger, but it is better to use the right size. I've only found one place that I can buy a 1/4 inch lip and spur drill, and that's from Axminster Tools. These are Colt, made in Germany. They have a double land, which is supposed to be good for the wood. It doesn't make any difference to us. In B&Q you can buy these in 6.5 and 5mm, because they don't sell the Imperial ones anymore. These are only £1, £2 each for a good quality drill, and it's worth having the right ones. This is the smaller one, 3/16. Again, as I say, you can use a 5mm, but really, especially on this one, you want to try and use a 3/16 drill if you can. So we drill our holes. This is 2 sheets of 60 thou, 1.5mm, so that's 3mm thick. This one is 2 sheets of 80 thou, so that's 4mm thick. And this is 2 sheets of 93 thou, which is just under 5mm thick. For different thicknesses they supply different length rivets. And I've put most of the rivets in here. Say these are the 1/4 inch rivets. The different lengths here. This one is supposedly for 80 thou. This one is for 93 thou, and this one is for 0.125. So in theory you should use them on the right pair of thicknesses. It refers to joining 2 parts of that thickness together. Okay. However, I've found that all of the rivets are quite capable of riveting anything thinner than their specification. And for preference, to be honest, I always use the one that's designed for riveting 2 3mm pieces together. You get a slightly different effect, you get a better swell on them. In the 3/16 size, they've actually got a specific rivet for doing 60 thou, which they don't do in the 1/4 inch. So this size should use this thickness rivet. There isn't one available for the 1/4 inch, but as I say, you can use all of the thicknesses on anything thinner. And if you're going to invest in this equipment, it's not cheap. I would recommend that most people would be fine with the 93 thou thickness in 1/4 inch if you're only going to invest in one. This will do all the thinner sizes, and you're unlikely to ever want to need the thicker one. I use it because I use some of the bigger, heavier sheaths, and I'm intending to use some 3mm, and it enables me to rivet more than one thickness together. For example, I can rivet 3 thicknesses of this together, because three thicknesses of 2mm makes 6mm, and that's within the capabilities of that rivet. So it gives you a bit more flexibility. The smaller rivets are useful, but the 1/4 inch rivets fit all the bolting together parts, the pillars and posts all fit through there. The 3/16 ones will fit paracord. So on something like this simple neck sheath, all I've done is put 2 small rivets in, because I'm not intending to bolt this to anything else. And you can easily put a piece of paracord through there to hang around your neck as a neck sheath. So once you've decided, the other reason I've looked at the thicker rivets is because you actually get a face to these. The face that's already turned is the good face, and the face that you form doesn't give you quite as nice a look. So in general, although most sheaths are designed to be ambidextrous by simply bolting them around, I try and put the good face on what I consider is going to be the one that's mostly used for show. Okay, in general it's a right-handed, but if I know somebody's left-handed, I'll turn the rivets round. However, the thicker or the longer rivets give more roll and give a much more even and better looking form on the back. I'll try and do some close-up pictures so you can see these. So I've got all the rivets, got through all the thicknesses, and you can see the differences. Again, in the 93 I've only got two sizes that will fit, which is the extra long ones and the 93 ones specifically. And again, especially on this one, the 125 rivets give a much nicer roll. To roll these rivets you need a forming die. These are the Pro Series ones. These fit in an arbor press. I use an arbor press because I do a lot of it. It's quicker, it's easier, and to be honest it gives a much nicer finish. There are available, the cheapest way to do this is to buy a set that you use with a hammer and tap them in. You can also fit those to an arbor press with a bit of machining and engineering, and there's now a journeyman set which is similar to one of these but with a stand for tapping it in, and again that can also be used with an arbor press. We'll be looking at the actual arbor press in a later video as more shop tooling. As I say, the other options you have, which I don't do because I was never really a leather worker, is I would suspect most of the rivets and eyelets and fittings that you can use in leather work can probably be used on a similar thickness to Kydex. If you've got them available, it's worth trying. They're probably cheaper to buy, and they're definitely more readily available in UK. So if you've got any that you can recommend, I've seen them on other YouTube videos where people are using various leather rivets and snaps, and they seem to work fine. So if you've got those and want to try them, give it a go. As I say, the advantage of these with eyelets is you can actually bolt through them. So we formed a sheath, we fix it together. Okay, carrying and fixing your sheath to something to bolt it on or clamp it on or clip it on to whatever you want to carry it on. I generally prefer to use Blade Tech lock systems. This is the large tech lock, mini tech lock. This is the small molly, designed to fit the PALS military system. They also do a longer one, again to fit more larger pieces. These, especially the large one, is designed to fit a variety of sizes of belt, up to 2 inch and up to 1/4 inch thick. Has a variety of bolting points, so you can play around with mounting positions with the knife or whatever else you want to put on it. It's quick and easy to put on. It has a lock so it can't come off, and when you do want to take it off, it's quick and easy to take off. You can make Kydex loops and mess around, but to be honest, that's trying to replicate what you do in leather, and it doesn't really work in my opinion. The loops can be a little bit cheaper, but they give you all the problems you have with leather, in that you can't take it off quick and easy. It's not really the best use of the Kydex. Mini Tech Lock, if it's a slightly smaller belt, has a slightly different hole position system. This one doesn't have a locking system, but again, if it's a smaller belt, personally I'd stick to the large Tech Lock and only use the Mini Tech Lock if this one's not applicable. So say the molly system clips to into the military molly system, which actually is available on a lot of civilian rucksacks, pouches and things used these days, so it might be useful. If you've got a large knife you want to clip on the outside of your pack and not carry on, and then clip off and on again. Again, hole positions on these are fairly standard. This one uses, both of these use 3/4 inch on centre. I generally use 2, which is 1.5 inches. So if you've got holes for this, this one will fit as well. As with the rivets, there's a wide array of things that you can use to bolt them. Tech locks generally come with their own set of hardware. You can buy them without, but it's not worth it. This consists of a threaded post, a rubber, and in general a small screw. Okay, you can put the post in there, the rubber goes on, and then you put your sheath on and screw through. I'll try this one. And this one is a countersunk screw, and it's designed to sit in and look neat and tidy in the 1/4 inch eyelet rivet. However, like everything, these are generally one size. If you're doing multiple thicknesses or other things, then you really want different versions. So we can get a slightly longer post to go through thicker Kydex or more layers of Kydex, because we can bolt multiple things together. We can use different types of screws in different lengths. These make it more like a Chicago screw in different lengths, and then these ones in general I put the screw, the sheath, and screw in the post on the back, and you get a slightly different look. But again, on this one you also now get a thread on this side, so it's quite possible to screw something else in from this way and hold another item on the front, which can then be easily released without unbolting your entire system. You can also use Chicago screws, which again are generally available in the leather world. Same thing, very similar to the rivets, apart from they're not threaded all the way through, and they probably look a bit nicer. It gives you a different look as well, but it has the same thread. Being American, all these threads are 832, which is the standard size, which is also why the rivets are called number 8-8, 9, 10, depending on the length. The 8 refers to the thread size in the middle. So Chicago screw fits through exactly the same as a post. Again, can give you a different view, a different look. The other thing to consider is you don't necessarily need a rivet or an eyelet in a hole to be able to bolt through it. All of these will fit through a 5mm hole. I generally draw them to 5.5 to give a bit of play, and you can still bolt through straight onto the Kydex, so you don't need to fill every hole with a rivet just to bolt something on. As you can see on this one, I've got a pair of holes here with rivets in that fit the tech lock large at 1.5 inches. I've then put in these extra holes with no line or eyelet in them, because the small tech lock has a 1/2 inch on centre, or 1 inch for 2, and using one of those holes, the other one we can then bolt on this other tech lock. It can also be bolted in different configurations, different heights. Another consideration to think about when you're putting it together, you don't need to spend a lot of money on eyelets, because each one of these in general is about 10p each. So most of my sheaths now I use 2 or 3 at most rivets. This one, as you can see, it's a 1/4 inch rivet there, 1/4 inch rivet there, and I've put a small 3/16 one in the end just to make it thinner, and that's all it needs. If I want to put any more bolting holes, I can just drill a 5mm hole straight through and use one of the posts straight through the hole. As I say, there's a wide range. This is another version. This is an extra long, this one's 1/2 inch. It's a post rivet and a very large spacer. Again, having them gives you options for bolting different things together. It's slightly longer than this one. And it depends on how many bits you're going to bolt together or not. As I say, you don't always have to put a rivet in. In general, if I'm putting a fire steel loop on, I won't actually rivet the holes because there's no need. We can just use plastic straight through and clamp it in between. Other options for nuts and bolts, again all these are specialised bits, been designed and are made for the Kydex Techlock system, is knowing that they're standard 832 thread, we can buy, this is a standard 832 thread dome head Torx bolt, black and stainless. This will screw directly into all of these posts and gives you a different look. We can even use another one on the other side. This one being shiny stainless, as I say, different look again. Even considering if we want to make something special, this is a 1/4 inch pivot pin which takes an 832 thread. Putting a head on the bolt. We can now slide that through a standard 1/4 inch hole and bolt it up, and again, being quite thick, we can use this to bolt in lots of different layers and lots of different accessories if we wish to, or we can grind it back to whatever thickness we want, or even put a standard blade tech screw in the other end. The blade tech screws, to be honest, are the nicest in the general stuff because they're countersunk and they have a slight dome head on them. You can use standard countersunk ones, but they don't sit quite as nicely. So there's plenty of options there, using proprietary kit again, which can be expensive to import, or standard leather stuff, standard nuts and bolts. You could even use an M4 or M3 or M5 or whatever you've got, drill a hole and nut and bolt it together. You don't necessarily have to use anything standard. Have a play, see what you can come up with that works for you. On the bolting together, once these sheaths have been riveted, obviously you can't get them apart very easily, which means you can't really clean them out very easily. You can just drill these up, bolt them together either with the pins and posts, or as I say, any nut and bolts you've got, which gives the option then of taking it apart, opening it up and being able to wash out any bits and pieces in there.